Welcome back, everybody. What a draft. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. So before we get into my best and worst picks of the NFL draft here, just a couple announcements here. I will be doing a full draft report for each team individually in individual videos. I hope you don't get annoyed with the frequency of the upload rate here in the next couple days, because those videos are going to be popping off. And then everybody has been asking me about my rookie roster. I can't keep answering the same question over and over again, so I'm going to say it right here for now. On Xbox, the plan is by the end of the weekend, maybe dipping into Monday morning. That's the plan, to have the entire rookie roster done for Xbox. PlayStation, I can't make any guarantees. What I've been telling people is 4 to 8 days from tonight, which is Saturday, April 28th, the end of the draft. So without further ado, let's get into my best picks here. We'll do worst picks afterwards. Basically looking at value, fourth most. Did you get a good value? Is it a good scheme fit? And where did I have that player going? These are, of course, my opinion. These are the best picks based on my own draft board, my own evaluations of these players. So at 1.3, Sam Darnold to the Jets. Just gifted the best quarterback in this class here at number 3. There was a chance they were going to be looking at the third best quarterback in the class when they traded up here. Instead, they get Sam Darnold. He's a perfect fit. Great pick. 117, Derwin James here to the Chargers. Home run pick, huge need, and they get one of the more surefire, can't miss prospects, in my opinion, in this class. A Harrison Smith, Cam Chancellor type of prospect to plug right into that really good defense. The Chargers, my pick to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC in 2018. Pick 132, Lamar Jackson. Now, I had Lamar Jackson as my fourth best quarterback. Had him going in the first round, so the value's there. But I really like this pick because it's a spark plug for this team that needed some excitement. 2.2, Will Hernandez goes to the Giants here in the second round. Best run blocking guard outside of Quentin Nelson here to New York. And this actually really helped my opinion of that Saquon Barkley pick, because I have criticized this Giants team for the last couple years for not addressing this offensive line. They signed Nate Solder. They bring in Will Hernandez. Definitely think this team is heading in the right direction here. Great pick. And then 2.9, the Titans here trade up for Harold Landry. Edge rusher I had going in the top 10, call him Baby Von Miller. Huge need for this Titans team. They have a Rakpo there, but he's not getting any younger. Derek Morgan never really panned out. I thought this would have been a great pick at 22 when they traded up. Instead, they go up and get him in the second round. So they get 2 impact defenders. Tennessee trying to compete for a Super Bowl this year. Then 213, Green Bay gets Josh Jackson, a corner I had going in the first round. I thought they could have settled for Josh Jackson at 14. Instead, they trade down. They load up on a future first. They take another corner in the first, and then they still get Josh Jackson. I love how he complements Jaire Alexander. Alexander's kind of that high upside speed, deep cover corner, can cover across the field, but then Josh Jackson is the playmaker. I have Josh Norman as my comparison for Josh Jackson. He's not going to be an elite cover guy, but really going to make an impact in run defense and, as a nickel corner in coverage. And he can play outside as well. I thought this was a home run pick for the Packers. 227, Darius Geis to Washington. Now, I have been drooling over Washington this offseason, and then especially in the draft. I just love what they're doing. They're going old school, getting fast, tough, physical players on the defensive side of the ball. And we'll talk a lot about this Washington draft in their own draft recap video. But spoiler, I think they may have had the best draft out of any team. But Darius Geis gives them that element on the offensive side of the ball. They have a very good offensive line. People like to forget about that, but that's why Kirk Cousins was able to be as successful as he was that offensive line. And then you pair Darius Geis, physical. I don't think it's preposterous to compare him to Marshawn Lynch, and you get him in the end of the second round here. I thought this was an absolute steal and just fit what Washington is trying to do. And then 3.2, the Giants again getting a great pick here, Lorenzo Carter. So 1, 2, 3 now, this Giants team having a really good draft. We just talked about Washington's draft. So 2 of the worst teams in the NFC getting a huge boost in this draft. But Carter, I had him going in the middle of the first round as an elite high upside edge rusher. They let Jason Pierre-Paul go, and Lorenzo Carter can come in and replace that athleticism off the edge that they lost in Jason Pierre-Paul. Great pick there. Then 332. I loved this pick. If you haven't noticed, there's a theme for me with culture fits. I love talking about culture in the NFL and how it's an undiscussed point about how your coaching and the environment of a team can really make or break a player's career. And Harrison Phillips is a Buffalo Bill. He is a clone of Kyle Williams. Nasty interior defender, was going to come in wherever he went and be a good run defender, but Kyle Williams can teach him a little bit more how to get after the passer. Awesome home run pick for Buffalo. Buffalo's right there with Washington, in my opinion, for the best draft of the weekend. And then 335, Isaac Yiadom. Anytime you can get a player who I think has the upside of a starting number one corner in the end of the third round, you know that's a good pick. But then he goes to Denver, which is a great place for him to come in right away and succeed. They let Aqib Talib go. Don't believe they've paid Bradley Roby yet. I think he's in the last year of his deal. So Isaac Yiadom, a year from now, could be this team's best number one outside corner. We all know what Chris Harris does for that defense. So I loved that pick. Then 4.9, we got Washington on this list again. Troy Apke. This dude was designed in a lab somewhere in Germany, I'm pretty sure. The dude's a freak athlete. Just blew the roof off of Lucas Oil Stadium at the Combine. Falls because he's a white defensive back, but man, his tape isn't even that bad. Some people think he's going to be a big project. I don't think so. I think he showed Harrison Smith flashes at Penn State. I love this pick. This defense is just going to be so fast and sneakily feisty. And then 410, Nick Nelson. The Raiders show up on this list a lot here on day 3. Getting a lot of value. So Nick Nelson, I had going in the second round. Same kind of take for Isaac Yiadom, except Oakland has an even bigger need for corner. So I love this pick. He does have to come off the injury, which is kind of why he fell. And then 433, this was a total home run. J'Mon Moore, one of my favorite players in the class. This team clearly had a plan to bring in more speed and size on the outside. They tried to get Allen Robinson. He chose not to go there. It was reported that they wanted Courtland Sutton, and he gets taken before them in the second round. So they're able to wait, and almost in the 5th round, they get my number 8 receiver coming into the class, a player that I compare to Dez Bryant. Big, fast, strong receiver, fantasy football players. This guy's not going to get talked about too much, but we're talking about a starting outside receiver, a 6'3", 210-pound guy who runs in the 4.4s, playing on an offense with Aaron Rodgers. If you're in dynasty drafts, whatever it is, get your hands on this guy. I think he could be the best receiver statistically in this class right away and long term. I love this pick. 5.3, Maurice Hurst to Oakland. Now there's clearly information that we don't have. Everyone wants to sit here and say how great of a pick this is. Obviously, I love Maurice Hurst as much as the next guy, if not more. But there's clearly some risk there. If he can get on the field, home run pick, best pick in the draft, but it seems there's a chance that that might not happen. And then 516, Tyrell Crosby goes to Detroit here. I had him going early second round. I thought he was one of the best pass protecting tackles in this class, and Detroit gets him in the 5th round of a draft where teams are reaching for offensive linemen. This was a slam dunk. Just one of the best values in the draft. And then 6.3, this is a player that I had mocked all the way back in the 1st round a few months ago. I feel confident saying that he is this year's Carl Lawson as that refined edge rusher who falls because of injury concerns. We didn't get workout grades from him, so we don't know how truly athletic he is, but his tape is just fantastic. He's not a scheme fit for Houston, but frankly, Cincinnati didn't really have room for Carl Lawson either, and they made room for the great player. I think that could be very similar here for Ejiofor to Houston, even though they already have some really good edge rushers. And then at 6.8, we got Christian Campbell here, cornerback out of Penn State. Just another great value at corner here for a Cardinals team that needs cornerback help. Tramon Williams leaves and Matthew leaves. I think Christian Campbell is going to be this team's starting corner on the opposite side of Patrick Peterson. Reminds me a lot of Trevor Williams out of Penn State. Really good athlete. Trevor Williams broke out for the Chargers last year as one of the better outside corners in the league. Then 633, Equanimous St. Brown, wide receiver out of Notre Dame, goes to Green Bay. In my 7-round mock draft, I had the Packers taking St. Brown in the second round. I called it a match made in heaven, a guy with so much upside that he could become AJ Green paired with Aaron Rodgers. But props to a lot of you guys in the comments who said he was going to fall 4th, 5th, 6th round. I was clearly much higher on Brown than a lot of people, maybe underestimating how raw his route running is, but the guy creates a lot of separation in college, and I still believe this is the best possible fit for a raw receiver like St. Brown. 6'5", 4.48 40 time, and he's only 20 years old. Smart guy, speaks like 4 languages, comes from a wealthy family. Just kind of an all eyes open, what's going to happen kind of pick here. Really intrigued to see how this plays out with St. Brown. And then the next pick, Dallas goes Cedric Wilson, another receiver I really liked out of Boise State, had him as a 3rd round value. And then this next pick, probably better than any of these 6th round picks we just talked about, Colby Gossett goes to the Vikings. When they took Mike Hughes in the 1st round, I liked the pick, but my question was, what is this team going to do at guard? Because all the good ones for the most part were gone, and I was wondering what they were going to do with their big gaping hole at right guard after Joe Berger retired. And they are lucky enough to get a polished physical guard out of Appalachian State, so he's not a great athlete, but the guy is smart and physical. He'll come in, I think, and start at right guard for this Vikings team. Absolute home run pick. We got 3 more here on my best picks list, 7.6. Just a great value. Javon Wims, receiver to Chicago, who has just loaded up on talent. I really like the Anthony Miller pick in the 2nd round as well. Was my number 2 receiver in the class. But Wims is a high upside guy, really good athlete, but showed a lot of flashes in an offense where he didn't show consistency because of usage, not necessarily how good he was. So I like the upside of Wims here for Chicago. And then 7-10, Marcel Aitman. Really just a lot of good receivers falling here, 6th, 7th round, and some guys left in free agency like Simi Cobbs. But Oakland gets another guy on this list of best picks. They get Marcel Aitman, big, tall receiver. Reminds me a lot of a taller Marvin Jones. I think he can do a lot of similar things that Michael Crabtree did as well with Derek Carr, so I like that pick. And then the last guy on this list is Justin Jackson at 733. The Chargers get a backup running back here, which is a big need for them. And Justin Jackson is a hell of a player. He's a versatile guy, showed that he is much quicker and a much better athlete than people might have thought, especially myself included there. I thought he might have been like a Jordan Howard based on his junior film. He's got really thick legs, but he came out and showed he can catch the ball. He's quick. If anything happened to Melvin Gordon, I think Justin Jackson could become a household name. So those were my best picks. Let's talk worst picks here. Now, this list is much shorter. You know, I'm not going to be overcritical of teams. Usually, I'm in the boat of if you like a guy, take him. Don't listen to what other people think. But there were 6 picks in this draft that I thought were really hard to justify. You know, most picks you can kind of justify it, but you know, if you really reach for a guy and the value was just so bad, or if you had other needs that were just so glaring and you pass on a really good player that was available, those are the kind of picks that I really question. And there was only 6 in this draft that really stood out to me and kind of gave me an emotional reaction to the pick. Number 1 was obviously Baker Mayfield, the pick that I shredded in my first round grades video. Look, I have all the respect in the world for Elliott Wolf and John Dorsey, but something clearly happened, in my opinion, with Cleveland, because I just don't know how you can look at this guy as the number 1 overall pick and the best quarterback on the board. People love to point to the accuracy with Baker Mayfield, and I consistently will stand by the fact that completion percentage is the most meaningless stat in all of football. That is completely dependent on the play calling. I've never looked at completion percentage and said, oh yeah, that's a good reflection of if a quarterback can win games for my football team. Sam Bradford holds the record for NFL completion percentage in a season. Baker Mayfield is going to have to completely reshape his game. He played against high school caliber defenses consistently in the Big 12. I'll stand by that. Big 12 quarterbacks never work out. The best one is Sam Bradford. He has a good, not great arm. I think he can make all of the throws, but not consistently like Rosen, or actually Allen, I think can consistently hit all of the throws and put the ball where he needs it to be, that natural see-ball, hit-ball arm that translates into the NFL. He got by off of his mobility in college that is not going to translate to the level that he had success with it in college. Watch the Georgia game if you don't believe me about that, where he's actually playing against NFL caliber players and trying to run away from them. So anyway, let's move on to 127 here, where the Seahawks took Rashad Penny. Now, I love Rashad Penny, and I had a first to second round grade on him. So it's not about the player, and he could work out, and it's not the worst pick in the world. But I just really question this because this team has completely neglected offensive line, and it has backfired for this team. You had some really good players sitting there. Will Hernandez, a specific name I would throw out there. So while I like Rashad Penny, I just think this pick really set this team up for not getting the value that they needed out of this draft, especially when you could have gotten like John Kelly in the 5th round when you took a punter. So just kind of a head-scratching draft all around for Seattle for me. And then talk about head-scratchers, 128, Terrell Edmunds to the Steelers. Now, I had a 5th round grade on Edmunds, and he could work out. But the reason I critique this pick is why not trade down? Load up on a few more picks, go into the late 2nd round. That risk just seems worth it. The risk of potentially not getting your guy in Terrell Edmunds. If someone else is as high as you are on him, so you miss out and you take another player like him. Just really was down on the value of the pick here. And then 211, I like Kerryon Johnson, but I really liked what Detroit was thinking with the Ragnow pick in the 1st round, trying to become a more physical running team. And the reason I didn't like this pick is Kerryon Johnson is a player who I actually kind of compare his game to Jerick McKinnon. He's a little bit of a different athlete. He's a little thicker, but I think he plays sort of the same role that Jerick McKinnon has and offers the same skill set as a decent between the tackles runner, a shiftier guy, and a guy that can really contribute and be a problem in the receiving game. But does that description not sound a lot like Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah, who are already on this roster? And I get wanting to go running back because you don't want to pay Amir Abdullah anything as an injury-prone guy who's coming up on a contract. But there was a player sitting there that really would have gotten me excited about this team as a team that is saying, all right, we're going to run the ball and punch you in the freaking mouth. And that would have been Darius Geis, or even waiting and taking Kalen Ballage in the 3rd. So this pick just kind of seemed inconsistent with this team and what they need, the value of the pick, and what I think they should have done. And then you got to go all the way down to the end of the 4th round here before I found another pick that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and that was Jaleel Scott, who the Ravens take here after already taking 2 tight ends, 2 really big, slower receiving targets, and they take Jaleel Scott, who is an incredibly raw 6'6" receiver who basically can only run in a straight line. His ceiling is Brandon Coleman, who's been just a wide receiver 3 or 4 for a good Saints team. And it's not that taking Brandon Coleman in the 4th round is the end of the world, but there were receivers here that I thought could have really offered potential future number 1 receivers for this Ravens team that doesn't have one. Jamon Moore, Equinemius St. Brown, even like Cedric Wilson, who went to the Cowboys, would have been a much better pick here in my opinion. So, I thought this was really just one of the bigger wasted picks in this draft because I don't see how Jaleel Scott frankly ever gets on the field for this Ravens team. And then my last worst pick here is Christian Sam to New England, who I was pretty low on. I'm not going to really, question if Bill Belichick thinks that this linebacker can play in his scheme. I'm sure he can. But I did have a priority free agent grade on Christian Sam. But that's not really why I was down on this pick. The Patriots ended up taking Danny Etling in the 7th round as their backup quarterback here. And there's a player that I mocked to them in the 1st round in the What I Would Do mock, and Luke Falk, whose idol is Tom Brady. This is the 6th round where Tom Brady went. Luke Falk here would have been a freaking home run pick, and I would have sat here and said, you have the potential future 15 years set at quarterback in Luke Falk. Now, I will say that the Patriots clearly think that Tom Brady's going to play for another 3-4 years potentially, because Danny Etling, I'm sorry, is not the answer for the Patriots. I think Luke Falk could have been. So those were all my best and worst picks. Let me know. I'm sure you guys have plenty of names you want to throw at me. I'll try and let you know my reaction to those picks. Might just throw a letter grade at you and not really give you much of a answer, depending on how many of you guys let me know in the comments. But like the video if you enjoyed. You'll be getting plenty of individual team draft reviews here in the coming days. So we'll see you guys for those videos. Cheers. Peace out.